Back in November, I talked about a case where a 15-year-old was locked in the bathroom of an apartment building naked. He had been forced to sleep on the bathroom floor on a pallet nude. Since I made the initial video, more information has came out and I want to discuss that. This is going to be a longer video. I'm sorry, I can't make it any faster than what it is because there's so much information. So, first of all, whenever I read the initial news article where I made the first video, it was reported that the woman and the man, the adult woman and man that were lived in the apartment were the mother and stepfather of the 15-year-old. That is not the case. The woman was actually a court appointed guardian to the 15-year-old, and the man was in a relationship with the woman or married to the woman. The woman, the court appointed guardian, her name is Jacqueline Barnett. Jacqueline Barnett petitioned a Benton court in 2013 to get guardianship of two minors. One was 4 years old at the time, and I believe the other one was 1 year old. The 4 year old is actually now the 15-year-old that was being abused. So he's the older boy. Jacqueline Barnett had no relationship to the older child, but she was the paternal aunt of the younger child. Jacqueline Barnett, it didn't look like she had any reasoning. It didn't list any reasoning for her to file for guardianship of the two boys, but the father of the younger boy and the mother of both boys did sign off on Jacqueline being a guardian initially. About a year later, after Jacqueline became the court appointed guardian, both parents hired an attorney, and filed to have someone else put in as guardian. They said in their filing that they learned that Jacqueline, who was married to someone else, was romantically involved with a man who was in prison for aggravated assault, and they had another person that they wanted to be to put in as guardian to replace Jacqueline. Now, that was denied by the court because Jacqueline fought against it. She wanted to be the guardian in that case. If you know anything about guardianships in the state of Arkansas, when you are a court appointed guardian, you have to do an accounting every year to show where any income that the person gets, how it's being spent, and also how the person is doing, the person that the guardian was approved to be over. So in the initial filing, it looks like Jacqueline said that one of the children, the older child, was receiving Social Security benefits in the amount of $733 or something like that. So that child, she was getting money, really, basically, to care for him. That is the child that was being abused. That is the child that she was not biologically related to. After the parents petitioned the court to have Jacqueline replaced as guardian, and that was denied, the parents petitioned the court to get visitation. They were permitted to have supervised visitation. The person that was supposed to supervise the visitation was the very woman that they were trying to have replace Jacqueline as guardian. Her name was Glenda. So Glenda was supposed to supervise the visitation, and the parents, this was a temporary order. The parents were given certain dates that they could have visitation. Now, Jacqueline did not want the parents to have visitation. She did not want the parents to be in contact with the children at all. She said it wasn't for their best interest. And in fact, the parents, after the court gave them visitation, rather than setting up specific dates, the court said that the guardian should contact the parents and set up the visitation. And she never did that. And Jacqueline admitted to the court that she never contacted the parents for visitation because she didn't want the parents to have visitation. So the parents got temporary visitation. And then the court ordered that the parents have permanent visitation, overnight visitation every other weekend. Now, Jacqueline did file one accounting in a timely manner. The second accounting, the court had to issue a citation on because it was like 2 or 3 months late. They issued a citation and then she filed the accounting. So when she filed the accounting, she put in that first of all, the older child's social security benefits had been increased a little bit, looked like a cost of life increase. And secondly, that the visitation with the parents had been stopped because she found out that the visitations were happening in an environment that was deemed unsafe. Now, the court did not stop those visitations. That wasn't a court order. It looks like Jacqueline stopped those visitations. After a couple of accountings were filed, no other accountings were filed in the case. It looks like nothing happened with the case. The court tried to file a citation in 2016, send a citation to Jacqueline's attorney and to Jacqueline herself. The address that Jacqueline listed on the accounting the year before as being where her and the two boys lived at was no longer a good address. So the court did not have a good address for Jacqueline or where the children were. And also, the attorney was no longer with the law firm that he had been with before. And the court was unable to find any contact information for that attorney. And the attorney did not reply to emails that were sent to him that were citations from the court. And ultimately, there was never a response from Jacqueline or the attorney again, and the case was dismissed. Now, I don't know what it means when a guardianship case is dismissed, but as we know, the children didn't go back to the parents. They remained with Jacqueline. So I have to wonder, one, why the parents were getting visitation and then did not do anything after the guardianship case was dismissed when it was clear that Jacqueline was in violation of everything that she agreed to do when she was appointed as guardian. Secondly, I have to wonder why there was never any more oversight for Jacqueline Barnett or the boys. There was nothing in place to protect the boys. They were just left there. And is that a failing of the court? Is that something that normally happens? I don't know. Maybe you could tell me. Also, I found it interesting that when Jacqueline Barnett initially filed for guardianship of the two minor children, the two boys, she had 4 older children in her home, 4 children that I think were her biological children. And at some point, she was also pregnant with twins. So then there were up to 6 children in the home, and then add the 2 children that she was guardian over, that would have been 8 children in the home at one time. I would assume that most of those children are actually grown at this point in time, if not all of the children, other than the twins. Now, just briefly going over the case, on November 2nd, Mountain Home Police were called to an apartment by neighbors. They were called to that apartment because neighbors heard someone yelling, "Help me." So the officers went into a lower apartment and were directed to where the residents in that apartment could hear someone yelling, "Help me." They could hear it if they were standing in their master bathroom. So officers then went to the apartment above the master bathroom where they knocked on the door, and 2 minor children answered the door. Those 2 minor children said that they didn't know what the officers were talking about. Nothing like that. They hadn't heard anybody saying, "Help me." So they did allow for officers to go into their apartment and look around. And when officers went into that apartment, they found that in the master bathroom, the bathroom door had been ratchet strapped closed. Whenever they opened that ratchet strap, released it, there was a 15-year-old in the bathroom that was being kept in the bathroom nude, sleeping on a pallet. He was not being given food. The only food that he was being given to eat was what he was given to eat when he went to school. There was a crap ton of school days that he missed. So he wasn't even getting to eat regularly, never mind on the weekend when he was actually just at home. The officers did say that the 15-year-old boy was reluctant to come out of the bathroom because he was ashamed, that he was naked or embarrassed that he was naked. And also, he appeared to have some developmental delays of some sort, which would make sense because he was receiving that Social Security payment, right? So they did talk to the adult man and woman that lived in that apartment, and they basically said, like, oh, the boys must have been playing around and locked him in that bathroom, playing around, not taking any responsibility whatsoever and blaming the other children that were in the apartment. For what it's worth, Jacqueline Barnett was working at a car lot at the time, and her boyfriend, husband, whatever he is, Daniel Wright, was a salesman, so you know that they're good at BSing anyway. What's more than the information about the guardianship and all of that is that 29 times since Jacqueline Barnett was made guardian of these two boys, DHS has received reports of abuse. 29 times. They have visited the home. They have visited the home at times, not even checked on the children, not got sight of the children, just taken Jacqueline Barnett or Daniel Wright's word for it that the children were fine and gone on their merry way. So, is this a failure of DHS? Is this a failure of the court? You know, I don't know, but I think that someone needs to be held responsible because child, this child was treated in such a terrible, unimaginable way. Now, the investigator for the Mountain Home Police Department has actually made a statement. I will share that with you. In his statement, Investigator Day said, when the public starts to get upset about this, it's justifiable, no doubt. But I think just as a whole, we failed this kid. As a whole, we all failed him. The neighbors downstairs, they could hear something going on upstairs. They could hear a child in there asking for help. An officer arrives, went into the apartment. They brought him back there, and he could hear the child in there. So he went upstairs to investigate, knocked on the door, and the only ones that answered the door were a 10 and 11-year-old at the house. In my opinion, it's in the opinion of some others as well, that these kids are no doubt coached, no doubt, whether it be fear for themselves or what have you. Our sergeant was escorted by the children to the back bedroom in the bathroom area in the master bedroom. In the master bedroom, they found a ratchet strap that was attached to a bedpost that was attached to the bathroom door where the child could not get out. The sergeant talked to the child behind the door, eventually let him out, and discovered the child was in there with no clothes. And in fact, the child didn't want to come out because he was embarrassed because he had no clothes. He hadn't eaten. He was hungry. That investigation led to him telling us that it is a regular occurrence that he is only let out to go to school. He went on to say, never, never seen anything like this. It's very, very, very traumatizing for the kids, but not only for the kids, but for officers that have to deal with seeing this and hearing this. And it sucks. I went to the apartment, I saw the kids, and I saw what was going on. I immediately got on the phone with the Department of Human Services, let them know what was going on. My first intention was, how do we get this kid some help? We discovered that there had been multiple calls regarding this child. I spoke to the neighbors who called this in. In my book, they're heroes. These people are heroes, no doubt about it. Without them calling, who knows? I mean, it's just going to keep going on. We know with what the child stated in his forensic interview that he was held in this bathroom with no lights, no food every night, but he's let out to go to school. So that being, he was let out and he's put back, then he's let out and he's put back. Where the prosecutor came up with the number just to start, let's go back to January. Let's find out how many days of school he was actually in school. So that's how we did it, based on those numbers, to come up with a number as he was in school from January up to the time he was located 112 times this year. That was what he said when he was asked why the couple was charged with 112 counts. That was how they come up with the number. That was what the number was for. The child was put back in to the bathroom 112 times because he was let out to go to school 112 times. He went on to say, I believe that the further we investigate, there could be more additional charges. When asked, basically what Jacqueline Barnett and Daniel Wright had to say for themselves, Investigator Day said, we were given excuses as to why. They didn't deny that the ratchet strap was there, but in their mind, it was to keep the children out of that room, keep them out of there because of a leaky faucet. They didn't want them in there because of a leaky faucet. We were able to debunk that in a couple of different ways. Everybody that finds out since this arrest, there's no happy people in this. People may be joyful when we were able to make the arrest and joyful that we were able to get the child out of the house. So Jacqueline Barnett and Daniel Wright were both arrested. They were charged with 112 counts of false imprisonment. They were also charged with endangering the welfare of a minor and permitting the abuse of a minor. They have since bonded out of jail. This is an ongoing case. And as far as I can tell, I haven't seen any other articles that say that charges have been added at this point in time. We'll see. Maybe they are figuring out how many days in total the child was in the bathroom and will ultimately charge with all of those counts of false imprisonment. I don't really know. I will update. This is a very sad case. You hate to see any child being treated like this. This child, I can't imagine how much he suffered. You know what I mean? Like, this is someone, a guardian that was court appointed, supposed to be in the child's best interest because maybe the child wasn't in a great environment before, but then he got put in this home where he has been abused, neglected, starved, and it's just the world sucks sometimes. People are really actually very terrible sometimes, and it sucks.